Sorry.
So, Anna-Karin, because Mondays, where did we start?
I think it started when we began to talk about like what is it about our jobs that we really like and what is it that we wish we could do more of, and what was actually preventing us from just starting to do more of exactly that. And I think this was triggered because we realized we have a similar area of interest, which is like how can we get to help more and more people to find what they really love to do, and how can we help them grow. And this was actually interesting because it started with you like trying to help me get a job. So you asked me a lot of questions like, okay, so what is it that you want to do? And I had a rather clear idea about what I wanted to do, but I also said that I wanted to do it, I wish I could do more of the people part and less of the sort of the day-to-day business part that I just had to do to get money. And then we started discussing, and we were talking, and you said that so we realized we have a common interest, but how can we then take this from just being talk to something more concrete? And then you knew someone that has developed a tool called the Vision Sprint, which we then decided to, I read up on it, and we decided to like, okay, we can try, the purpose of the Vision Sprint is to help you like define your goals, your why, your what, and your hows. And so we actually decided to try it out because we were just sitting and talking all the time. And how did that go?
So how we did it was maybe not the school book example of it, because we live in different cities, so we had to work distributed. So what we did is we took the 3 chapters and we started with the why chapter, and we started to discuss in the why chapter what are our values, what do you value the most, and you were thinking about that and I thought about that, and we wrote them down in silence. And then we met every morning and we discussed the result. We met on Skype or any video conferencing and discussed the results, and we kind of found out that we had pretty much similar whys, and that was something to start with, which was a real strength, I think. And also we took that with the Vision Sprint as a guideline to look at what's the next step. Okay, what kind of behaviors do we want to promote within this? And that, I think, doing those 2 things was really important to, first of all, understand, can we make something together? Are we aligned within our real purpose and our values and our behaviors, or behaviors that we would like to see in people. And
this is a good point, because we were sort of setting out the structure for something new that didn't exist. We started on a blank canvas. So we were now deciding what should be the guidelines of Because Mondays. Like, we know that we want to help people grow and be more passionate about like what they actually do. So, but what is it that is going to be important on our journey to make that happen? And to then outline the values, that these 3 values and these behaviors, supporting these values, this is what we're going to strive for every day in everything we do. If it's a post on social media, if it's in a workshop, or if it is like in connection with a potential colleague, like we should strive to live after this. And that has been so helpful in every like conversation that has followed, because we can say like, actually we said we were going to do it this way. How can we make this approach more according to our values? So it was a great start.
And I totally agree with that. Starting with that is what made all the other discussions so much easier. We have a good basis to stand on. And also at that point we didn't know, are we going to make a company, or are we going to make a brand, or are we just going to figure out what we're going to do, or what will this lead to? We didn't know. But in that why session, we kind of got the idea that we want to make Mondays better. That's our why.
That's a selfish why.
It's a selfish why. We would like, we love the weekends and we love the work, and we want to feel as passionate about the Monday as we do about Fridays. So when we figured that out, the name of what we do, the movement, is of course because Mondays. Because we are working because there is Mondays and we want to make them awesome.
Yeah.
And that's one of the good effects, I think, with the Vision Sprint. To work with it, you can really set the tone for the next, for your house and your watts and everything you do, your products, how you work with your product, how to make your products or services or anything that you do. To root that in your why is so important.
Yeah, exactly.
Precis, det ena vi kommer att säga.
Yeah.
Det var så.
So then, after we had set the why and agreed on some values and some behaviors that we think support the values, we went into the what section. So what is it that we should do in order to make our why come true? So when we moved into the what section, then we talked about, so if what would make our Mondays better, that would be to actually get to sit with a person and see that excitement when they are sort of figuring out what they want to do more of and how can we help them get better at exactly that. So then we said that we went with the Vision Sprint, we went through like what opportunities we have, like looking at markets and needs that there are there, and also what we want to do, what we don't want to do. And when we went through all these sections, we ended up with like 2 strategical tracks that we decided to focus on. And do you want to tell me about the tracks?
Yeah, so the tracks we found out was that, okay, we want to build this family of people or freelancers that work with us where we can support them to find their spark. So one of our what's is to hire people that we can help make their passion, make their Mondays better. And the other thing is that we also can make the coach service for people who are in a good place, but they want to grow. They want to be better. They want to take the next step. So be that extra helping hand, the coach, the challenger that challenges that person to move on, to break status quo within their office or within their field they're working in right now. That's the second part. And then also the third part is to make a toolbox with all the tools, the leadership tools to make teams and people love going to work at Mondays. What kind of ingredients do you need? What kind of methods? What kind of behaviors do you need in your office, in your team? How can you structure that? How can you create high-performing teams where everybody can help innovate with all their diversities and stuff like that?
So when we define that, and they all sort of tie together to the commonality amongst them, they are that we want to help different people on like their corresponding, like their different paths. Like someone might be struggling with daring to take the leap. So then we can help them sort of mature their ideas and like dare to take those scary steps out into freelancing. And for some people, they're rather happy where they are, as both like you and me were as well. Like we were happy, but we feel like we can do even more. We can be even more focused on what really makes us tick. And then we have the third, which is like a toolbox where you can actually offer something to anyone, like any workplace would benefit from. I'm sure that there's not one single workplace in the world that cannot be like become a bit better. And that is what we would want to offer. Like the possibility for like toolbox, like there are hammers and saws and nails out there, and just like help everyone to get better at using them in constructing something good. So after the what was defined, what is the last then section in the Vision Sprint about? So
the last section is about the how. How do you get there? What kind of strategic paths are you taking? So for a long term and a short term, and you want to come out with a 3-month plan or a quarterly plan with your goals and your path to get your what out there. So we looked at that and we defined all the different establishment steps that we needed for making Because Mondays a reality. That was, for example, establishing a brand. Simple things like we have to register the trademark. We love the brand name Because Mondays, so we must register it. So we send it on registration, and we got it. So it's really good. We bought the domain and all those kind of like basic things to just have the platform. And the other things we did was also to say, okay, what kind of tools can we have in the toolbox, and also to define the offer. What is it in it for the freelancer who is part of Because Mondays, instead of being at your job where you are today and not freelancing. If you want to move from there to freelancing, how can we make that offer in a good way? How can we describe it in a good way? What's the tactics to get that to happen? And also the tactics for the coaching as a service. How will that work? How can we establish that service in a good way, so we can communicate it and we can start selling it? And because everybody needs to make money coming in as well. So how can this be priced in a good way, give enormous amount of value, more value than you pay, of course, and we can make it scalable, so we can make a running business out of it.
So the outcome of doing the vision sprint, it was that, because I remember when we finished it. So then we had agreed on our why. We found the business name, like as an effect. We had our values. We knew sort of what was our strategic areas, like what was it that we wanted to use to accomplish our why, and we also set sort of a step-by-step action plan on, okay, so this is how we're going to do it. And after that, I think that we started learning Instagram. To start to tell the story about like the amazingness. Yeah.
And that's a struggle. but we and also figure out, okay, how will we present the value? How can we give as much meaningful value and content as possible on social media? Not just use it to describe what we do and what we sell. That's not what I think everybody wants to hear. I think people wants to hear, how can they find their spark? How can they get a better Monday? So we set a strategy, a how, where we're gonna give stuff on our social media channel. Of course, we are there also to promote our products and services, but that's kind of secondhand. So we are currently on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, which LinkedIn is of course the main channel when it comes to people and work, because we also want to make Mondays fun. So the strategy with Instagram which is more of an entertainment platform. We want to make things a little bit easier than maybe the corporate platform LinkedIn is. So handle that in different ways. And that's a struggle to learn the different social media platforms and be good at it. But follow us and we will promise to be better.
But I think that's a good point about why we actually started doing the social media posts. It was to sort of help people to start to think about that there are so many tools out there that you can use to make like everyday situations better. So there's a lot that you can start to do today, and those are sort of the things that we wanted to like put out there for people to try. If you try this today, you can feel the feeling of how it is when it's a little bit better. And we sort of want to like then exponentially like increase that feeling. But that's going to take a lot more work. So that is sort of the approach with the Instagram posts. And as we did this whole thing, like as we used the vision sprint in order to come up with all this, what I liked, since we were doing this, like you were sitting in Åre and I was in Stockholm. So we're sitting this and we're doing it like distributed, and we sort of did it chopped up in time as well. I really like to have the instructions on how to do it, like what are we supposed to focus on per step all through this exercise, because it was really good to have that sort of virtual facilitator. Even if it would have been nice to have like an actual facilitator, but it was nice to have that sort of support to keep us on like following the red thread as we were doing this. So it was really nice that we were sort of handed this package of both like, okay, here is where you fill in what you come up with, and now next step is. That was really helpful.
Yeah, and the Vision Sprint is, it's totally free to use these instructions and the template, which you can find on it'sinthenode.com, the company It's in the Node who has created the Vision Sprint. So you can just go in there, go into the Vision Sprint section, and I think maybe you need to give your email address, of course, but then you can get all the contents to make it yourself. You can get support from It's in the Node to do just some things, or you can have an external facilitator. And for us, we did it just completely the free version of it. And I think it was really good, and we learned the Vision Sprint from it. But we also, after we'd done the Vision Sprint, we kind of iterated it a few times more to kind of crisp down what our whats and our hows. We haven't changed the why, I think, a single bit.
No.
And we haven't really changed the whats either. We just kind of prioritized the whats.
Yes.
And the hows, I think we kind of change a bit more.
Yes.
That changes every day. but still, but with a facilitator, we might have had the structure more fixed in place, and maybe we could have thought about the contents a little bit more than the process. But I think it was really valuable to do it without the facilitator as well. Just to think about these things in the right order is what I think was most important. And I've never really done the why really good before, and I think that's a real success factor. Tag someone, or I think you should do that. Tell the audience to tag someone, because that spreads this video.
Yes.
But tag someone who's struggling with setting the vision or strategies, and do your whys, whats, and how, and point them in the direction to the Vision Sprint just to check it out, because I think it's really good, and you can try it for free and experiment with it.
And it's never a bad thing to get more certain of why you want to do things, or why certain things are important to you. Because it's easy for that to get clouded in a stressful day.
Yeah.
So I don't, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you end this? High five.
Bye.